Hi, my name is Joe Reeder. I'm the author of Restoration in the Barrens, and I'm here to answer some questions from some students at the Marsh Middle School in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Eva and others asked what inspired me to write Restoration in the Barrens. Really was looking for some way to get other people to understand how important these places are. I wanted to tell a story about prairies that didn't take place in a covered wagon. I wanted kids to know that it's okay to care about things that maybe others find a little bit different or odd. And frankly, you write about what you know, and I know a little bit about prairies. Sophie and Libby asked about the names of the characters and how I made those decisions. It was a tough one. Started out with trying to write a story about a child, and I didn't know what to name the child. So as I was writing in my first drafts, I just used the abbreviation CN for child's name. I assumed that at some point I would figure out what I wanted this child to be named, but by the time I got through the first draft and still hadn't named the child, he became CN, so I needed a name that started with a C and started with an N. I also needed to make sure that the name didn't match any student I currently taught, so anyone would think I was writing about them. The rest of the characters, well, that one I'll leave up to you. I would encourage you to take any of the character names and Google them. For example, Mr. Culex. If you do a Google search on Culex, you'll find that it's the scientific name for a mosquito, one of the most annoying and evil creatures out there. Most of the rest of the characters have names that, in one way or another, are connected to the scientific name of something. Not always. Aspen, Sadie, and Cariana asked if my life was similar to Corey's life. In some ways, yes, but in real important ways, no. At least at the time of the book was written, my parents were both very much alive. I found my way to central Wisconsin not through social services, but through going to school at the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point, and I haven't left. Many of the adventures that Corey has are patterned after adventures that I've had. Some of the struggles he's had with fitting in at school are either things that have happened to me or happened to students that I've taught. I've taught for many years. Some of it, frankly, is just made up. A lot of the things that happen to Corey are a composite, a kind of pulling together of many different things that happen to many different kids or people that I've known. Sarah asked if I lived in a prairie or near a prairie when I was growing up, and the answer is no. I grew up kind of near you guys. I grew up in Watertown, just down Highway 19 from Sun Prairie. If you were to head from Sun Prairie over just past Waterloo, you'll come to a place called the Mud Lake Wildlife Area. Maybe at the time it was called the Mud Lake Hunting Grounds. I spent an awful lot of time there, in the woods, in the grasslands, out in the marsh. Any spare moment I could have with family or friends, or when I was old enough to drive, spent a lot of time out in that area, either hunting or skiing or snowshoeing, picking mushrooms, anything we could do outside. That's pretty much where it happened. And that kind of set the groundwork for a lot of the interest I have right now. Vincent asked how come I made kids so mean to Corey. I don't know. I've been teaching for many, many years, and sometimes kids aren't so nice. I'm sure you are all very, very nice. I don't mean to insult you. But I'm sure that you know some people who've been picked on, who've been bullied. And you know, we can pretend it doesn't happen, but it does, and maybe by talking about it, by putting it in books, maybe we can start to think that that's the wrong thing to do and do something about it. Vicky asked why eagles. Why eagles were symbolic in the story I wrote. And I'm not really sure. I know that when I was your age, eagles were rare. Pesticides were making their eggs shells so thin. Hatching eagles was a challenge for parents. When we grew up, when I grew up, my family would spend a lot of time in northern Wisconsin, and seeing an eagle was an event. You know, many kids in the car would stop and stare. I've had many great experiences where you surprise an eagle as you round a bend in a canoe, or you know, even in the fields you see behind you, occasionally there'll be an eagle or two pass through. Eagles have been important to me. I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, and other than that, I can't answer it any other way. Jordan asked if I'm rich. I love that question. No, I'm a middle school science teacher. I'm rich in ways other than money, I guess I would say. However, Jordan, I have a deal for you. If you find a way to start an internet campaign and get the book turned into a movie, I'll see that you have a front row seat at the premiere. Even treat you for supper. How's that? Leah asked if I ever had any doubts about the book after it was published, and the answer is yes and no. Sometimes I read through it and I say, I should have changed that, should have fixed that, I could have done that better. But mostly I just kind of enjoy the fact that I get to occasionally talk with people like you. I get to hear from students, hear from teachers, and it makes me happy, and I guess that's what it's all about. Claire asked if there was ever any special, or if I had a special place that I go to try to figure things out. And the answer is absolutely yes, and it's not far from here, so let's go. Alright, we're out here in the Buena Vista grasslands. This is one of my favorite places to be. It's mile after mile after mile of nothing but grasses. It's actively managed for prairie chickens. Many of the scenes in restoration in the Barrens that involve wildlife biologists take place right here. It's not unusual to see trucks with radio antennas come by as they're tracking prairie chickens and other critters. I've come out here for many, many years. It's a great place to watch thunderstorms, huge flocks of cranes, the hawks in the summertime, snowshoeing, skiing. It's a pretty incredible place, particularly if you like big open spaces, well, as big as you can get in Wisconsin. I'll show you around some of the rest of the places here. Here we're standing inside an information kiosk out in the Buena Vista. If you were here, you'd have a roof shelter and you'd see some displays that explain what they do out here and how they keep the place in grasslands for birds. The star attraction here, of course, is the prairie chicken. And if you ever get a chance, get up here in the springtime, reserve a blind, walk out in the middle of this place at 4 in the morning and sit in a box and wait. Just like in the book, it's pretty awesome. Something you don't want to miss if you get a chance. Here we are at one of the ponds that you can find in the Buena Vista, similar to the ponds mentioned in restoration in the Barrens. These are the kind of ponds that the wildlife managers put in to attract wildlife, habitat for ducks, particularly during dry times. It's a great place to go and see wildlife. Lots of critters will show up here. Sometimes I'll put a wildlife cam out and see what comes to the ponds. Take a look around here and show you a little bit of what it looks like. You got to imagine it's summertime. This is probably not good swimming weather. As you can see, they've got a little bit of ice around the pond. It's been a cold morning. By the end of the day, that ice will be gone, but it's almost November and it's time for the Buena Vista here to kind of go to bed for the winter. The pond here is about 5 acres, similar to the size that you read about in restoration. Well, that's all I have for you here. I appreciate hearing from you. If you have any other questions, just let your teacher know. He knows how to get a hold of me. Look forward to hearing anything more that you have to ask about or talk about. I'd love to find out some things about the places you like to hang out. I apologize for any names I mispronounced. You can ask my students. I do it all the time, and I know them. Thanks, and have a good day.